you do when you're desperate? That's really the start of today's biblical story. Desperation, bitterness, depression. Where is the hope to be found in such situations? Friends, it is found in the most unlikely of places. From our text in Ruth this morning, then Naomi started to return with her daughters-in-law from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had considered his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she had been living, she and her 2 daughters-in-law. And they were on their way to go back to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back each of you to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find security, each in the house of your husband." And then she kissed them, and they wept aloud. They said to her, "No, we will return to you, to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Do I still have sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, and go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. Even if I thought there was hope for me, even if I should have a husband tonight and bear sons, would you then wait until they were grown? Would you then refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, it has been far more bitter for me than for you, because the hand of the Lord has turned against me." Then they wept aloud again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. So she said, Look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not press me to leave you, to turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do thus to me and more as well, even if death parts me from you." When Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more to her. So the 2 of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. And when they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the woman said, "Is this Naomi?" So everything that could possibly go wrong for Naomi in her life has gone wrong, like terribly wrong, like nightmarishly wrong. She has lost everything. She is worse off than Job. We all are familiar with Job, and at least Job was a man and he could go out and get a job and make a living. Naomi can't even do that. Earlier, Naomi had moved to this foreign country with her husband. It was filled with people that she had been taught were no good, those Moabites. She moved there with her husband and sons out of complete desperation. There was famine in their own country, and they were just trying to survive. And things looked up for a little while, but then disaster struck. The unthinkable happened. All of the men died, her husband and her sons, and with them, her means of survival. So Naomi makes another decision out of desperation, and she decides to go back to her homeland, her own people. Maybe, just maybe, they could help her, or at the very least, she could just die in her homeland. That's an uplifting thought, right? But Ruth refuses to leave her. In this whole hopeless narrative, we find this glimmer of hope in that Ruth refuses to leave her. And it's through Ruth, this woman of Moabite descent, enemy of Israel, who Naomi has been taught is just the worst of the worst, the grossest of the grossest. It is through Ruth that is the bringer of hope in Naomi's life. Clearly, there is a strong love and bond between these two women. I bet Ruth never told a terrible mother-in-law joke her whole life. She loved her. But things look pretty bleak for Ruth, too. She didn't have some secret stash of money or food. Her husband, Naomi's son, her husband has died. She has no sons to take care of her. There's no judgment for Orpah, by the way, that we can read into this text, this other daughter-in-law who returns to her family of origin. Ruth could have done the same. So how did Ruth find it within herself to provide such generosity, to provide her heart to Naomi? I read a story a long time ago, and the details are a little fuzzy about where I read it, but I do remember these parts. It was this little snippet of a story about some kids from a low-income area, and they were taken shopping as part of a Christmas gift program, I think like Shop with Cops or something like that. And they were given a certain amount of money that they were allowed to spend for basically their own Christmas gifts. Now, what did most of them do? They bought Christmas gifts for their moms, for their siblings. That's why it's struck with me for all those years. They bought gifts for other people with that money. Most didn't even want to buy something for themselves unless it was something small and practical and absolutely necessary. They took that gift and they gave it to others that they loved. Now, we can pick apart that story and talk about all sorts of the things in that story that break our heart and how things are economically unjust and unequal, and all of that would be true. And at the same time, there is a generosity there in the midst of survival that is beautiful. Glennon Doyle has this word that she coined called brutiful. Beautiful and brutal. That's what that is. Ruth understood that kind of generosity, that kind of brutal generosity. It echoes through her declaration to Naomi. Let's hear it again. Do not press me to leave you, to turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you live, I will live. Your people are my people. Your God is my God. Where you die, I will die. I am going to follow you to the ends of the earth and never leave you. What is this kind of generosity, and where does it come from? Because we all want to survive. We all want to survive, and really, we all want to do more than survive. Survival's not any fun. Survival's just surviving. We want to thrive. We want to thrive, and because of that, sometimes we're really tempted to hold on with both fists and cling to everything we've got. And we could do that. We're allowed to do that. But is that the best thing for us, for our heart? Generosity helps us grow our compassion, our understanding of where others are coming from. It helps our hope grow because we see what is possible with a generous spirit, especially when we are surrounded by acts of generosity and we see what's possible is only limited by our imagination. Generosity helps us grow in our faith. It reminds us that we have enough and we can depend on God for enough. We struggle with that in our culture, with having enough. Not because most of us here don't have enough, but because we do have enough. And we just want to fill that unfillable void of commercialism, because our culture tells us constantly, we need more, there is never enough. So generosity, it curbs that. It puts limits on what we think we need so that others can actually have what they need. And most of us will not experience the tragedies like Naomi and Ruth experienced, but we will experience something that makes us feel desperate and wondering how we're going to survive it. And we'll need generous people to surround us and lift us up and see us through. These two ordinary women somehow managed to express a generosity born out of love for one another that is exceptional, and it allows them to accept generosity from others later on. Now, this story, it ends well for them. Not perfectly, but well. Not all stories there do, but theirs does, with a new marriage and a baby that is the ancestor of Jesus, a hope that was unimaginable when they were walking that dry, rocky, deserted road back to Bethlehem. Now, it's that time of the year when we talk a lot about generosity around here, and ask you to be generous in your giving next year so we can continue our mission here at Shawnee Community. A mission of this place being a place of acceptance and love, sharing God's love with anyone who needs it. Most of you, if not all of you, have received letters and pledge cards this week to prayerfully consider. And this is the time of year that makes me feel a little bit squeamish. You know, all those old tired jokes about pastors standing up in front of everybody asking for money. I mean, if y'all feel like throwing me a Rolex and a jet, we're going to sell that and make us financially sustainable, but you can do that if you want. I mean, there's a reason for those jokes, right? And yet there's a certain reality to being part of a nonprofit, to be part of a church. But true generosity isn't manipulated and it isn't forced. It's freely offered, it's humbly accepted, it's responsibly used. And really, at its heart, generosity is an invitation to be part of a bigger story, one in which we live out our claim that God provides generously for us, and we go on in that same story to share that generosity with others. Now, I know I mentioned the pledge cards already, but there are other ways that are coming up where we can also experience the gift of generosity. Linda Phillips is heading up the gathering of names for Christmas presents for kids at Micah Ministry. She'll have a list soon. If you want to be part of that, go talk to her. She collects a list of kids from Micah and their wish list from toys, and then we go out, buy those things. She takes them back to Micah to be given out. Annette and Sherry are leading our project, which is new this year, for holiday food boxes for harvesters. We're collecting money right now to put together boxes of food after worship on December 7th. Both of those things come out of expressions of our faith, that call of God to care for others in all of the ways that we can. And there's not just financial generosity either, is there? That's one piece. We know this. There's time freely given to help others. Do y'all know that you tell on each other in the best of ways? Y'all tell on each other. She's not here, so I'm going to use her as an example, and if she sees this, she'll probably get a kick out of it. But if you guys do anything nice for Sharon Cantrell, I promise you I will hear about it. If y'all do anything nice for each other, you guys tell me. You cannot wait to tell me when you do nice things for one another. Expecting nothing back because you're just good people, because you're kind, thoughtful, loving folks. You give rides to doctors, to people who can't get there. You give rides to church events. You make dinners. You visit folks who can't get out anymore. You take people to lunch. You send letters in the mail and give people gift cards for meals. And you pray for one another. So many prayers for one another. And then there's talents and skills and abilities that you freely use to benefit other people all the time. Not just here. You don't just do these things for the people sitting here on a Sunday morning, but you do them for all sorts of people out in the world. It's a spirit of generosity. When we lead with generosity, it leads us into an openness that welcomes others into our lives and in friendship and love. And it is a lovely, beautiful thing to behold. Something that we can remember from the story of Naomi and Ruth as they traveled back to Bethlehem, to Naomi's hometown. They were welcomed. They were embraced. They were accepted. They were loved upon in all the ways they needed. They found housing. They found food. They became part of that community's present, but also its future. And they were able to do more than survive because of the generous love of the people around them. Naomi and Ruth, they were able to thrive, all because of a generosity of spirit. Friends, may we go and do likewise. Amen. I invite you all to pray with me this morning. Teach us the courage, O God, to turn from what seems natural and safe, the way of grasping power and befriending the powerful in the hope of protection and security. Teach us humility, O God, to turn from what is so enticing, so pervasive, the way of accumulating things and trusting in wealth in the hope of comfort and life. Lead us, O God, in another way, the way of true security, true wealth, the way of Christ the servant, the way of weakness and simplicity. Lead us, God, in another way, the way of caring for the neglected, feeding the hungry, housing the unhoused, protecting the threatened, and challenging the powerful. God, lead us in the way of the gospel, that loving, loving word that reminds us of your presence with all. Amen.